I got the invitation to go on this Armed Lutheran radio show, though. You know this guy? Have you seen this? There's two things that I would like to say that make me feel safe. Number one, the fact that there is a radio show called the Armed Lutheran Podcast somewhere in the world. That makes me feel safer.
Pistols, prayer, and potluck. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey. Yes, the rumors of my death are clearly overrated. I am your host, and I am with you again this week for episode 364. My thanks to Brian, the text-to-speech guy who filled in as the host for last week's show, and my apologies to all of you lovely people for your well wishes, for your not hearing the show much over the last few weeks. Doc says there's a viral bronchitis thing going around. Not COVID, not the flu. I passed those tests or failed those tests. I don't know depending on how you want to look at it. But this stuff was pretty awful. This was worse for me than COVID was. I had COVID last year, which knocked me out for 24 hours. And then I spent 5 days in isolation, just basically twiddling my thumbs and climbing the walls, wanting to get out. But this stuff has been clinging on for almost 3 weeks. I still have a little bit of a nagging, kind of a throat clearing thing that happens every now and then. But I'm back, baby. It's all behind me now. Moving forward, time for new Armed Lutheran Radio. Brought to you by the fine folks who are members of the Reformation Gun Club, the men and women who value what we do and generously support us through their monthly and yearly contributions. This week, I do want to give a shout out to Stuart from Spanaway, Washington, although he is no longer in Spanaway, and I don't remember where he is. He is in the free state of Florida. He will probably turn up next week for our online hangout, and I'll have to clarify. Steve from Vernon, Texas, Austin from Dysart, Iowa, Richard from Wichita, Kansas, William from Bentonville, Arkansas, another regular at our online hangouts, Steve from Grovetown, Georgia, Daniel from Chehalis, Washington, Greg from Holly, Michigan, Robert from Monroe, Georgia, and the infamous Johnny B. Thank you all so much for your support. And to all of the members of the Reformation Gun Club, thank you so much. I'd really appreciate everything that you guys do and gals to help keep the lights on. Armed Lutheran Radio is listener funded. That means we don't have any sponsors. We don't have any advertising. We rely on these good people and many more to help us continue to do what we do. If you would like to find out more about being a member, about all the cool benefits of membership in the Reformation Gun Club, visit armedlutheran.us/gun club. Memberships start as little as $15.17 per year. That's $15.17. It's a little bit of an inside Lutheran joke. 1517 being the year of the that is widely recognized as the start of the Protestant or the Lutheran Reformation, when Martin Luther is said to have nailed the 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church in Germany, questioning the Pope and the Catholic Church, or the Church at the time, on the practice of indulgences. But anyway, we have an online hangout coming up this Friday, June 23rd at 8:30 p.m. We do these every month, or at least we try to do them every month. We skipped last month because of this viral bronchitis stuff that knocked me out. But it's a great time. We hang out with members of the Gun Club and other members of the cast and just sort of catch up on the latest and greatest things from our individual lives and things that are of interest to us. It's always fun, and share a little adult beverage suggestions as well. So come and join us if you would like. We would love to see you there. Sign up today and come join us next Friday. We would love to have you. All right, well, it's been a whirlwind last few weeks. As you know, despite my froggy voice and nasty cough, I have been putting in lots of hours at work with several big projects, all at the same time. No rest for the wicked, as they say. Or is it no rest for the weary? I prefer no rest for the weary. Let's say that. So I have a lot of catching up to do. I missed a bunch of my daughter's volleyball games. I missed church for 3 straight weeks, which hopefully this morning, by the time you hear this, I will have gotten back my rear end back in church since I'm feeling much better. And I'm way behind on yard work. So needless to say, I am ill prepared for this week's show. But what I have been doing is being bombarded by the news. Every day when I fire up my work PC, all of our ticketing and timekeeping systems and the basis for the software that we sell and support is all browser based. So we use lots of Microsoft products because we sell and support a Microsoft ERP product. So I use Edge, the browser, and it sucks. But the opening page when you open Edge for the first time gives you a blast of just hundreds of headlines. It's this an amalgamation of all this news every morning. It's just bizarre and hyperbolic headlines with little photos accompanying them. Hundreds of them. And let me give you an example. I want to go through a few of these. I mean, we've talked many times about how divided this country is, and the fact that the divide politically and in terms of values is ever widening. Back in episode 356, not one but many, I talked about how the country doesn't seem to share common values anymore, and we're no longer a unified people. We really don't have anything except for our common status as citizens that we share any longer, and that does not bode well for this country's future. Our news media is largely to blame for this, and to prove it, all you have to do is peruse the latest headlines. Here's an example. From AP, supermajorities in state capitals push controversial policies to the edge. What are these? That sounds terrible, right? It sounds horrible and worrying. Well, what are these controversial policies, you ask worriedly? Well, protecting the unborn from the butchers in the abortion industry, keeping men out of women's sports, penalizing energy companies for not creating cleaner energy, quote unquote. See, these supermajorities, where the balance of power in these state legislatures leans heavily towards one party or the other. See, that's bad, according to the AP. But apparently it's only bad when Republicans are the ones who have the balance of power. And they don't take into account that the reason that there are these imbalances or these supermajorities is because the electorate, the people, the citizens who elected their representatives, they're the ones who put them there. See, when Republicans are the ones with the balance of power, there's something wrong. When Democrats have the balance of power, that's just the work of the democratic system. There are Democrats whining in this particular article that I mentioned about how Republicans don't have to compromise. They don't have to dialogue, quote unquote, on important issues. But if the shoe's on the other foot and the Democrats are in supermajorities and they're fast-tracking, say, transing the kids or unlimited abortion like they do in California or New York, the AP has no problem with that. We don't have any hand-wringing articles from the AP and other media outlets. See, these hyperbolic headlines are really designed to just generate clicks, to stir up your emotions and make people feel something so that you'll click and read more, and then they can charge their advertisers more because more of you clicked. And like a fool, I clicked on some of these and contributed to these asinine news outlets. Oh my goodness, look at this one. Gavin Newsom dropped a truth bomb on Fox News. Did he? Really? I don't know. I don't care. Oh my goodness, the walls are closing in on Lauren Boebert. What? I don't care enough to look. I really don't. Oh no! Joe Biden, accused of attempting to grope Eva Longoria. Okay, I kind of believe that one. Based on past history. I mean, seriously. Here's another one. Ohio makes brutal move against transgender athletes. So allowing inferior male athletes like Leah Thomas to compete against biologically inferior women so that people like Leah Thomas can win trophies. That's brutal, apparently. Right. Anyway, here's a headline from the LA Times. What is the Southern Baptist problem with women? Well, I don't think Southern Baptists actually have a problem with women per se. That's a little bit of a misleading headline, don't you think? Which is what the media does all the time. The problem is with 1 Corinthians 11 and 14 and 1 Timothy 2 and Titus 1 and Titus 2. See, when Christians look at those passages and they say, well, those are outdated, they don't apply today, maybe they use some aspect of human reason to dismiss the Bible's teachings on women pastors. Problem is when you do that and you start to suggest that this passage isn't nice or that passage makes you uncomfortable or this might hurt people's feelings or this or the other is outdated, you can pretty much do that with the entire Bible. And then the whole thing is meaningless. It's why I left the United Methodist Church many years ago. You start reading into the text. It's called eisegesis, where you read into the text your own feelings and beliefs. You start reading those into God's Word using human reason and emotion and modern sensibilities, and you end up with support for gay marriage. You end up with support for women as pastors. Ultimately, you end up with openly gay pastors. The problem is, we're all sinners. And as Christians, we believe Jesus is the one and only way to heaven. Well, most of us do. And we all want to go to heaven. But the sinful old Adam in all of us wants to go to heaven and wants to keep our sin. Ultimately, human reason and the lures of the devil lead us to compromise. And that leaves us with prosperity preachers like Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer and other hucksters like that, or the a la carte Christianity where you sort of pick and choose the parts of God's Word that you believe that you like. It's the wide path to hell, folks, and good on the Southern Baptist Convention for trying to do a course correction. Oh, wow, look, Donald Trump is starting to look crazy, says this headline. Wait, starting? What do you mean starting? Have you not been reading his tweets for the past 6 years? And then there's this endless stuff about Trump and classified documents. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it. How about you? I want it all to go away, Trump included. If that means putting him in a cell, fine. As long as he's out of here and he's not a liability. And please, 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 please stop with the whataboutism. What about Biden's documents? What about Hillary's documents? What about her emails? Well, trust me, I agree with you. But I agree with you in a different way. If it's illegal for a former president or former member of government to have classified documents outside of secure government areas, like in a closet or a bathroom at home or on a private server in a closet in your apartment, fine. Then prosecute all of them. Throw the book at them and lock them up. But if you're going to do it to Trump, then you need to do it to Hillary. You need to do it to Biden and anyone else, right? I don't like the argument that seems to dismiss Trump's behavior simply because someone else did it first and got away with it. I don't like it. I want equal protection under the law, just like the Constitution says. If you're going to prosecute Trump, then you better not be dismissing Biden or Hillary, because they've done it too. Lock them all up. And if you're not doing that, well, then it's clear that your prosecution is political and not legal. And that kind of thing simply further divides an already divided electorate. And it leads to people knee-jerk reactions to support Trump just because he's being targeted. That's a natural reaction. But it needs to change. The whole thing needs to change. But I'm afraid to do that, we're going to have to tear the whole government down, fire everybody, and start over. And I don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately. Here's another interesting headline. American support for same-sex relations sees biggest decline ever recorded. Interesting. So I read further. Gallup did an annual poll of American opinions on moral issues. Okay, this should be interesting. It is, and it's actually encouraging. The headlines make this out to sound terrible, but if you're a moral person, or just, if you're conservative, if you have good morals, you should be encouraged by this. Most journalists do not, by the way, so this should be encouraging to all of us. Support for birth control, divorce, unmarried sex, gay or lesbian issues, assisted suicide, teenage sex, porn, cloning, and suicide all declined, but not by much. Most of those changes are within the margin of error. But this is only over a 1-year period. So, the change in say support for gay marriage has doubled in 20 years. Support for gay marriage dropped 7 points in a single year. And support for the death penalty rose 5 points in a single year. Those are the biggest changes in this poll, either direction. And to soften the blow, of course, Gallup made sure to point out that support for gay marriage is still over 60%, and it has been since 2015. So don't worry. But I wonder why this change might be. Could it be that Americans are sick of having these things forced in our faces? You cannot turn on television. You cannot watch a comedy skit. You cannot watch a superhero movie. You cannot watch a kids show on Disney that is not trying to force their not-so-secret gay agenda on you and your kids. Whether it's drag queen story hour or trans stories in all the comic books or the spiraling depravity of Hollywood and the music industry, Bud Light and Ford and others bowing to the trans Nazis, that's probably why this big change. Americans tend to be a very kind of you do you, but leave me alone kind of people. We're strangely independent that way. But when corporations and entertainment outlets and media and politicians go all in on transing your kids and calling you a bigot for not wanting your kids to dance with a man dressed in assless chaps, well, Americans tend to be less interested in that, let's just say. And I'm also seeing a little bit of annoying stuff on our side as well that is sort of getting on my nerves, just to be honest. A little tired of the self-righteous moralizing of some in our community who chastise conservative Christians who oppose the movement that threatens our kids' mental health and their salvation. No. Not down with transing the kids, not down with affirmative medical care and all that crap. No, it's wrong, and we should stand up against it. not against the people who are trapped or who are mentally ill, who are dealing with these issues, but the companies, the politicians, the media outlets who are pushing it and supporting it, the insurance companies who are making it easier to do. We need to stand up, not make excuses for it. Now, what about the rise in support for the death penalty? Well, I'm going out on a limb here to suggest that maybe the left's endless efforts to minimalize the criminal element in this country might have something to do with it, to make excuses for them, to go easy on them because they're somehow victims of society or institutional racism, that they need to be given, extra chances. They need to be let back out whenever. Remember when COVID hit, one of the first things all the left wanted to do was to let prisoners out of jail. And Mike Bloomberg was just shocked and amazed that these hardened criminals that he put back out on the street would be so brazen, so ungrateful as to return to crime after he turned them loose. Like, what did you expect, moron? That's what people, I think, are getting a little bit sick of. Blaming the institutions, blaming racism, blaming racist cops or whatever, or guns, rather than dealing with the people who actually are causing harm. Americans are frustrated. They're frustrated that our so-called justice system fails them at every turn. It's why gun ownership continues to rise, because Americans of all stripes, all races, all creeds, all sexual orientations are realizing that nobody's coming to help you when the shit hits the fan. And yet our elected leaders, including that brain-dead zombie that we have as president, continue to push to criminalize law-abiding citizens or to ban inanimate objects rather than getting tough on violent criminals. God save the Queen, man. 80 million votes, folks. 80 million votes. All right. That's all for me for this week. If you have any questions or any comments about anything you heard here today, or if you have suggestions for a future topic you would like us to discuss, got an article or a video or something like this, an audio clip you'd like us to fisk in a future episode of Clinging to God and Guns with Pastor Bennett, please visit our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback. Leave us a voice message. We'd love to hear from you. Next week is going to be our June online hangout with members of the Reformation Gun Club. If you're not a member and you'd like to join in, check out armedlutheran.us/gun club and sign up today. We would love to have you come join us. Until then, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback, or a review on iTunes, and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.